Hi, good evening, everybody.
Hi, Khaled.
Okay, are we the only two so far?
We're the only two in the Zoom call, yeah. I mean, it is now, the live stream is up and running. So there may be other people hearing our conversation. What they should be seeing is the slide that's up there now, which hopefully you can see.
So when you say it's being streamed on Facebook already?
Yeah, it's on Facebook and yeah. So I was just yes, it's on Facebook and YouTube now.
Okay, so we will be starting at 5:30 with our panel of speakers, and so until then, I think if people could bear with us as our speakers join us, so they'll be joining us on Zoom from wherever they are, and we have quite a we have a great lineup of speakers bringing us different perspectives. We have got those who've experienced Islamophobia, and when I say experienced Islamophobia, those who have had somebody close to them, very close to them, murdered in Islamophobic attacks. So we've got the chair of Finsbury Park Mosque, Mohammed Kosba. We know Makram Ali was murdered in an Islamophobic attack a couple of years ago. Maz Salim, whose father was Mohammed Salim, was murdered in an attack, Islamophobic attack. So we've got them. We've also got the perspectives of Haringey's two MPs, David Lammy and Catherine West. And we've got the leader of Haringey Council, Joe Ejiofor, and the chair of Haringey Lib Dems, Councillor Julia Ogiho. And there are also two speakers from the activist community, if you like. So they are Naima Omar from Tower Hamlets, so Stand Up to Racism, and Mohammed Shuaib from MEND, Muslim Engagement and Development, who have been instrumental in this Islamophobia Awareness Month and the range of activities that we've had during this month. And finally, this evening's event will be closed by Haringey's first Muslim mayor, and that is Councillor Adam Jogi. So we will just wait and give our speakers a few minutes to join us, and we will be starting formally or officially at 5:30 p.m.
Great. You may need to do that. That's a great spiel. You may need to do that again at 5:30.
No problem.
Yep, that's good.
So
Mohammed is here.
How come it's being streamed?
Because some people will log in promptly, so just wanted to have it up and running.
Brilliant. That's good. Fantastic.
Yeah. So that's why hopefully what people are seeing is this slide.
Oh, so there is a slide they're seeing.
Yeah, because I'm sharing my screen.
So they're not hearing us speak.
That's what I'm not sure about. I think they might be. Do you know who Paul Dennison is?
No.
There's a Paul Dennison in the waiting room. I don't know who he is. It's Maz, who I'm going to admit. I don't know who Paul Dennison is. Because I've only shared the Zoom details with a few of us.
Hello, Maz. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Yes, hi,
yeah,
Maz.
We can hear you. What
How
about?
Are you? I'm sorry, I'm in casual attire. I just got
That's
back
okay.
now.
That's
My
okay, absolutely fine.
Are all in my
Mohammed Kosba, can you hear us?
Yes, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Thank you very much for joining.
No problem. I'll put myself a video on within a couple of minutes before we start, inshallah.
Julia is here as well.
Hi, Julia. Can you hear us? Fantastic. Okay. That's brilliant.
Julia and Mohammed are muted at the moment. I still don't know who Paul Dennison is. He's in the waiting room again. Could he be? No. I've no idea who Paul Dennison is. So I'm not admitting him at the moment.
No, Julia is trying to say something.
All right.
If you just unmute her,
Yep.
she might know who Paul Dennison is.
Julia, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, hi. He is one of our Lib Dem councillors.
Fine. Okay. Sorry, I just wasn't sure because I'm obviously being cautious about it. You do get trolls at these things, so I wasn't sure. That's fine. Hello, Julia. Welcome along.
Hello, thank you. We've got a few of the Lib Dem councillors joining us as well.
Fine, on Zoom. Okay, fine. That's fine. Not a problem.
All right.
I'll check with you if I'm not sure about who it is. Is that okay, Julia? Fine. Hi, I'm Vivek, by the way. Hello, nice to meet you. I'm the secretary of Harrogate Stand Up to Racism.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Yeah, good to meet you. Right, Paul's admitted now. Hello, Paul. I'm going to, unless people have a problem, I'm going to record the meeting to put on our Facebook page, unless people have an issue with that.
No, they can't, because this is meant to be streamed and recorded.
Yeah, well, people can say Lucia Das Neves. I'm assuming Councillor Lucia. Yes.
I think there might be some confusion. Okay, I think other the viewers, if you like, they were supposed to join on Facebook, but I'm will admit them to Zoom.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. They're welcome.
Yeah,
it's just that we'll be only inviting those who are listed as the speakers to speak.
Yep.
I hope.
Well, I'm in control, Khaled. So you tell me who to call, and I'll call them. My finger has the power. I can hear something in the background. Hello, baby. Salam alaikum.
Walaikum salam. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Walaikum.
Hi. How are you? Everybody all right?
Yeah, we're good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. It's going to be exciting.
I think it's a good panel.
Are you going to say a few words?
No. There's enough people on there. It's fine. Thank you so much, though.
Okay.
You're all going to be saying the right things. We all support it. We're totally behind you guys. So yeah. So it's fine. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you.
Joe Ejiofor's just arrived. Welcome, Councillor Ejiofor.
Hi, thank you. I'm just checking everybody can hear me. Just
fine. Hi there. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Hope everybody's well today.
So far, so good.
Okay, we're going to stay positive. That's what I like. Yeah.
That's the only way to be.
Okay. And just excuse me if I just turn my camera off for the next 5 minutes whilst
sure, that's fine.
I'm here.
Yep.
And I'll join. I'll actively join the meeting in a few moments.
Sure.
If that's okay, comrade.
That's fine.
Okay. So I can see everybody. I can see hi. If I can't see, hi as well. Okay. Let's see if we can make this work.
Can't let it is gone 5:30. Julia.
Hello?
Hi. Yvonne's iPad is in the waiting room. Do you know Yvonne?
No.
Okay. I'll message them then. Okay, thank you. Khaled, it's gone 5:30. Hi. Okay. Right. You should now be able to.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. So good evening, everybody, and welcome to this special event this evening to mark Islamophobia Awareness Month. November is Islamophobia Awareness Month, and a range of events and activities have taken place throughout the month. And this evening, you will see that there is a strong Haringey flavor to the meeting, to the event. However, what our speakers will share with you today, applies equally to everywhere in the UK, and we do have speakers from outside of Haringey as well. First of all, let me begin by introducing myself. I'm your host this evening. My name is Khaled Mueed. I am a Haringey councillor. I am also an activist with Haringey Stand Up to Racism and a committee member of Masjid Aisha Tottenham, which is the oldest mosque and the only purpose-built mosque in Tottenham. And I'm here this evening wearing all of those different hats. And as you know, Islamophobia is at its all-time high, and the impact of Islamophobia is something that is felt locally, and I can share my own experience. At my local mosque, we've come under attack quite frequently over the last 2-3 years. We've had an incident where somebody has gone inside the mosque to upstairs and burnt a copy of the Quran. We've had a white powder substance sent to us in the post. We've had hate material sent to us. Recently, we've had somebody who's come inside the premises, shouting, "Kill all Muslims." And all of these incidents have been reported to the police. However, that is nothing, or that is not in comparison to what's happened at Finsbury Park Mosque a couple of years ago, for example, with the murder of Makram Ali, in a horrific Islamophobic attack. And we have got the chair of Finsbury Park Mosque, Mohammed Kosbar. He'll be speaking this evening. We'll also be hearing from Maz Salim. He's also somebody else who's lost a loved one, her own father, in an Islamophobic attack. And there will be perspectives that our speakers will bring this evening. We have the two MPs of Haringey, David Lammy MP, Catherine West MP, who will talk about the nationally what's being done. Locally, Haringey Council last year became one of the first local authorities in the country to adopt a definition of Islamophobia, which says that Islamophobia is a form of racism and it targets Muslims and expressions of Muslimness. This was a definition that was proposed by the all-party parliamentary group on British Muslims, and we, that is Haringey Council, both the Labour Party in the council and the Lib Dems jointly proposed and adopted this motion, this new definition last year. So we have both the leader of Haringey Council, Councillor Joe Ejiofor, and the chair of Haringey Lib Dems, Councillor Julia Ogiho, who will be speaking, setting out locally what is to be done as a local authority in terms of fighting Islamophobia. We have got also from the activist community, and that is Stand Up to Racism, Naima Omar, who will be joining us, who's involved with Tower Hamlets, Stand Up to Racism, and also Mohammed Shoaib, who is the London Regional Manager at MENT, Muslim Engagement and Development, and they've been instrumental in terms of the Islamophobia Awareness Month. And finally, this evening's event will be closed officially by Haringey's first Muslim Mayor, Councillor Adam Jogi. So I'm going to be assisted this evening by Haringey Stand Up to Racism Secretary, Comrade Vivek Lehal, who is here with me in the Zoom call. And obviously this is being streamed both on Facebook and also on YouTube. So if we are going to be monitoring if there are any messages that viewers post, and because this is not a panel event, so there won't be an opportunity for you to pose or put forward questions to our speakers. However, if there were any comments that you wanted to make, if you wanted to put any specific question to anything that you've heard from a specific speaker, we'll put that to them towards the end. So please do comment and do share this event on your timeline on Facebook, share the YouTube so that it has quite a far reach. So let me start with this evening's first speaker. I'd like to welcome and request Brother Muhammad Qasba, Chair of Finsbury Park Mosque, to make his presentation. So over to you, Muhammad Qasba.
Thank you, Khalid. Thank you, Vivek, and good evening, everyone. Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you all. It's a pleasure to be with you today in the last few days of the Islamophobia Awareness Month. To mark this very important month now in the UK, as we celebrated the Black Month history last month, it is important to mark the Islamophobia Awareness Month and make it like as an event which we have to recognize, not just only by the Muslim community, but even by the wider society, especially councils like Haringey, Islington, and others. I'm glad that Islington Council recognized Islamophobia Awareness Month, and now they put it in their diary, and they will have at least a couple of events about Islamophobia during this month, and I'm sure other councils will do the same. Just let me start with saying that we Muslims in the UK face two pandemics. One is COVID-19, which we shared with the whole of the society, and the second one is Islamophobia. It's no doubt Islamophobia is a pandemic, which is, both of them are in the rise and spreading, unfortunately. Islamophobia not just only in the rise, and it is increased in the last few years, but the most important things which we have to focus on and try to tackle and deal with is the normalization of the of Islamophobia, the institutional Islamophobia, which now become normal in our society. And this is really very scary and very worrying for a community which make around 3 million Muslims in the UK. It's being normalized in the media, where we've seen almost on a daily basis headlines about Muslims, mainly negative headlines. And unfortunately, most of it either false or exaggerated. And the issue is that when we challenge that, and most of them, they go without challenging, unfortunately, because we are not even allowed to challenge these headlines and these false stories about Muslims. So they get away with it and people believe on it. And even when we challenge it and when we win this challenge, it will be too late because people already read these false stories and they made their mind. Also in politics, we've seen many politicians put irresponsible comments about Muslims and they get away with it and they became either MPs or ministers or even prime ministers, unfortunately. And not just here in the UK, we've seen it even in Europe. Recently, we all know about France, about Macron remarks about Islam in general and the Muslim community and so on. So it is being normalized in our society, in the wider society, in the daily life. We as Muslims, we feel it. I'm sure my colleagues here and the speakers, they have different experience individually, and as well as Khalid mentioned about mosques and other institutions. We experience Islamophobia in our daily life, actually, especially women. The women they think that they are the weakest link, they are the weakest target. We've seen horrible incident in public transportations, in schools and other places, which is really shouldn't happen in the UK these days. And when I talk about institutional Islamophobia, not just only in the UK, we've seen it even in the whole world. If we go back to the Muslims in Myanmar, in Burma, when being attacked because they are Muslims, being killed, families, children, women burned alive, and being driven from their homes, from their villages because they are Muslims. When we've seen Muslims in China being attacked and they've been put them in similar to concentration camps in China, and treated them very badly because basically they are Muslims. We've seen the Muslims in India, in Kashmir, how they've been dealt with. Unfortunately, we've seen even Muslims in Palestine when families, extremists killed the whole family alive, burning them alive in Palestine and elsewhere. We've seen that almost all over the world, just because they are Muslims. But we Muslims don't go and blame the whole of the society or the whole of the communities or the whole of the religion. We don't go and blame Buddhists for what the Burmese done or the Chinese done. We don't go and blame Hinduism because what's happened in India. We don't go and blame Jewish people because what's happened in Palestine to the Muslims. And we expect similar treatment from others. When a Muslim commit, and no doubt there is quite few who committed a criminal attack or terrorist attack here in the UK or in Europe or elsewhere, we should all condemn that. There is no doubt about that. But we shouldn't feel as Muslims responsible about it. It's not in my name. It's not in my religion name. It's not in my community name, and people shouldn't blame the Muslim community for that. As we do the same. We remember what's happened in New Zealand. We didn't go and blame the Christian for what this individual did. So we expect the same as Muslims from others. I just want to give a little bit about our experience in Finsbury Park Mosque. I'm sure we are neighbors of Haringey, so I'm sure our neighbors in Haringey knows what the history for Finsbury Park Mosque. As you know, since 2005, things changed there. No Abu Hamza and his supporters anymore in that area, and a new era started there. Finsbury Park Mosque is not just only a mosque where we open for prayers and so on, which is rightly so, but it is a community center now where we open our doors to all communities, regardless of their background, their gender, and their faith. And we tried our best to engage positively with our local community, because we know how much this area has been suffered because of what's happened in the past. And I can say that we managed to build that good relationship with our neighbors, with our local communities, and even beyond that. A lot of different activities taking place there. I'm sure many of you came to our Visit My Mosque Day, for example, or our Street Iftar during Ramadan, and other activities, the youth activities, and the homeless activities which we do there. I mean, a lot of things happening in Finsbury Park Mosque for the community. And despite all of that, we're still subject to Islamophobia. We're still subject to attack, as Brother Khalid said. I mean, somebody tried to burn the mosque just a few years back, and we all remember the 2017 terrorist attack when one of our worshipper, Makram Ali, was killed and several injured badly, and some of them they still suffer from their injury. It is a lifetime injury, unfortunately. So these sort of things is still happening. Despite all of that, I can say that because of our good relationship with our community, with our wider community in Islington, we receive a lot of solidarity and support, especially during attack. And this is the important message which I want to send it to all Muslim organizations, especially mosques, that when you do the hard work on the ground and you build this relationship with your local community and the wider community, whenever you are attacked, you will find them just around you and stand with you and support you. The next day after the attack, the Finsbury Park attack, we had more than 500 people came in solidarity to our mosque, outside the mosque, showing support and solidarity and condemn that attack. This is a sort of solidarity we want to see, and the same things we will do ourselves when other communities attack. I mean, the Jewish community in Islington being attacked, and we stand as Muslims with our brothers and sisters with the Jewish community and other communities as well. This is how it should be. We should stand together against those who try to divide us and spread hatred, fear, and division. Unless we do that, well, we will always be subject to attack. And let's remember that what's happened to the Jewish community 10th of years back, or to the Black community, or to the Irish community, it's happening to the Muslim community now. And if we don't stop it, it will happen. We never know. It will happen to other communities in the future. So it is on all our interest as British society, as communities, different communities, to stand up against racism and to support each other and show solidarity to each other. So I don't know if I still have time, but I probably stop here. And if there is any questions after that, I'll take it. Thank you very much.
Mohammed, thank you very much. Could you very quickly tell us the recent run-in with Katie Hopkins?
Well, yeah, I missed that. Thanks, Khalid, for reminding me. Well, Katie Hopkins, I'm sure you all know who is Katie Hopkins. During Ramadan, during the lockdown, she put a tweet about an incident happened in Blackstock Road, which is close to the mosque, but about two streets away from the mosque, between some young man and the police. And she said that these young men are members from Finsbury Park Mosque, and they attack the police and no one is talking about it. And this is what the religious of peace, which Islam, and her tweet being retweeted more than 5,000 pounds, around 5,000 pounds, and almost 1,000 comment. 99% of it are negative, despite the engagement by our leader of the council and the borough commander of Islington with her on Twitter and telling her that this is not true. She didn't deleted it, and she kept putting stories about that. Therefore, we have no action. We have no option actually except challenge her, and we challenged her in legally. So we sent her a letter asking her to apologize and withdraw the Twitter. Otherwise, we will take action against her. And she did it. She apologized, and I think many of you have seen the long statement she did. And even not just that, she put the positive work we've done during the pandemic in Finsbury Park Mosque, which was a great PR for us. I mean, it was for us, it was good for her to put that positive after she recognized that she made a huge mistake, which might cost her a lot. Even she put what we've done, distributing the PPE to local hospitals and distributing food parcels to those who are vulnerable, and distributing leaflets educating the community about the pandemic and social distancing and so on, which we are glad. But this shows that as community, we are not, we are a defined community, and we shouldn't let these things happen without a challenge. So we should challenge it. We should do our best, and the law here in this country and elsewhere allow us to do that. So let's not give up. Let's not say, no, let's let it go and it will disappear. No, it won't disappear unless you challenge it, and and we have here a solicitor, Brother Khalid, so he can help on that. Unless we do that, well, we will this attack will happen again and again and again. So my message to the community in general, that don't give up and raise to the challenge, and don't let these racists just bully you without any challenges.
No, thank you very much, and well done for standing up to Katie Hopkins and her ilk. And well done. Thank you for challenging and securing that groveling apology, where she had to talk about all of the good things that the mosque is doing in her written statement. So that was good. Well done. So this event is being streamed live on YouTube, on Facebook. I will be reading out some messages that some of our viewers, followers of this event have put up. So on Facebook, Balwinda Rana says, greetings from West London, stand up to racism. Janet Evans says, pleased to hear from all the speakers tonight. What an excellent lineup. Keith Flett says, solidarity, fighting Islamophobia is a key part of standing up to racism. And there are other comments. Rajiski Parori, solidarity comrades, Annie Morris, well said, it is horrifying, and so on. So we will now go to our second speaker, and I'm very delighted to welcome and to introduce Maz Salim, whose father, Muhammad Salim, was murdered in a horrific Islamophobic attack a few years ago. And Maz is involved in a number of anti-racism campaigns. More recently, she's been involved in the Shukri Abdi case. So I will hand over to Maz to tell us about her work fighting Islamophobia. So Maz, over to you.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak today, Khalid, Brother Khalid, for today's meeting, Fighting Islamophobia. I've only just got back literally this minute, hence why my casual attire. All my suit jackets are in my suitcase. I've just got back from Manchester. I've been at this entire week has been draining and exhausting, not only for myself or the family of Shukri Abdi, because we've had the inquest in Rochdale. So I'm going to focus more on what's going on with the case and what I'm allowed to say. So due to an ongoing inquest, which is scheduled to conclude on Friday next week, I'm restricted to what I can discuss, but I will highlight what's already in the public domain and what we as a campaign team have achieved since the tragedy of Shukri Abdi's death. So by way of introduction, my name is Maz Salim. I'm the daughter of the late Haji Muhammad Salim, who was brutally murdered by neo-Nazi terrorist and mosque bomber Pavlo Lapshin in April 2013. So as part of the Justice for Shukri campaign, alongside Shabnam Kulsoom, Eva from the National Education Union, and Abdulaziz, who's an activist from Liverpool. So over the last 17 months, we've been supporting the family of Shukri Abdi. The campaign was set up soon after her death in order to hold those institutions to account that failed to protect her when she was alive and until this very day. People are rightly angry that a young Black refugee child was neglected by the very institutions that should have protected her. Systemic and institutional racism played a huge role in this, and we believe this was the very reason why Shukri was neglected. Now, who was Shukri Abdi? Shukri Yahya Abdi was a 12-year-old pupil at Broad Oak Sports College, now renamed since her death to Hazelwood High in Bury, Greater Manchester. She came to the UK with her mother, Zamzam Arab Toure, and her 4 siblings from a refugee camp in Kenya as part of the UN's Vulnerable Persons Resettlement Scheme from a refugee camp in Kenya. She was part of the most vulnerable individuals and families who are invited to the UK. She was with 4 other children when she was discovered dead in the River Irwell on 27th of June, 2019. Almost immediately, Greater Manchester Police said it was a tragic accident with no suspicious circumstances. The family felt the police spoke too soon, and during this period, the school provided no support. Shukri's mother, Zamzam, had brought her children to the UK to find safety. She came here simply for a better life. Zamzam relayed to us that Shukri had been badly bullied for over a year and discussed the school failures in taking the complaint seriously. The reports of bullying had been logged by Broad Oak Sports College, but it was a whitewash investigation because they denied that she did that. I mean, if you knew the details of this case, you'd be truly, truly shocked, but I'm limited to what I can say. But the school basically did a whitewash investigation. Shukri was described to us as a lovely, friendly girl who helped look after her 4 siblings and support her mother. She wanted to become a doctor and she loved helping people. Greater Manchester Police continued to say that they found no suspicious circumstances surrounding her death. A change petition set up by our team directed to Parliament and Education Secretary Gavin Williamson and Broad Oak Sports College and Greater Manchester Police, and also to the former MP for Bury North, James Frith, calling for a full investigation into the bullying at Broad Oak Sports College, has collected almost 375,000 signatures. A supplementary petition has collected over 1 million signatures. Sorry if I sound really tired, but I've just got back and it's been really, really exhausting week and a lot, quite emotional for everyone as well, listening to, you know, what was going on in the inquest. Zamzam told us that she wanted to be treated fairly. She spoke to us of the difficulties Shukri had faced fitting in. So much so that teachers would sometimes bring her home themselves from school amid fears for her safety. Shukri had told them of the bullying she faced for months, and it was over a period of over a year, and the family were in the process of applying to a new school. Many want to just dismiss this as bullying, but this is about institutional failures and the inadequate response that has failed many victims of bullying. If there was adequate government funding and resources, this would ensure that these tragedies would never happen. But today, we still have a conservative government that have increased cuts in education that should have funded all those spaces to keep our children safe. The government and institutions must be held to account to ensure that this never, ever happens again. And this also leads me into why I got into the fight for justice for Shukri. You know, she was somebody's daughter. She could have been my daughter, my sister, my niece, my friend. And today it's Shukri, and tomorrow it could be your loved one, felled by the very institution that's supposed to protect those the moment they left at the school gate. When I read the story of Shukri, actually, when I read it, something didn't sit right with me. And then Shabnam, who lives in the local Bury community where the mother Zamzam lives, contacted me and said, look, Maz, something's not right. You know, do you want to come down? So I caught a National Express from London. The journey was so long. And then basically I stayed with the family for a week to find out what was going on. Because something didn't sit right with me at all. I only know too well how migrants, refugees and Muslims and people of colour are treated by the authorities, as I've been at the forefront alongside, you know, all you guys, all you campaigners fighting for refugee rights. You know, we're all anti-Trump, anti-racist and anti-war campaigners. So for me, it didn't sit right and I felt like I had to do something. So, you know, I left London and I went to Bury to find out exactly what went on. So alongside the team is Shabnam, there's also Fatima. So we spent time with the family to understand what truly happened. We felt it was incredibly important to hold the first two protests outside Broad Oak Sports College when the school was closed, to hold those very institutions to account for not properly protecting children. The initial protest hit mainstream headlines, and eventually the truth was finally being reported around the suspicious death of Shukri Abdi. And we thank all our supporters from Birmingham, from within the Somali community for holding protests in Birmingham and London. And in the first instance, we'd like to thank Shukri's friends as well, who bravely set off the red flags on their social media accounts, immediately appearing upon the death of Shukri, because they all knew in the school that she was being bullied and they all knew she couldn't swim. You know, I know the pain of losing a loved one only too well. My own father, Mohammed Salim, was lost to violent realization of far-right extremism and terrorism on the 29th of April, 2013, at the elderly age of 82 years old. My father was brutally stabbed to death on the road we lived on for over 30 years as he was leaving Green Lane Masjid after evening prayers. Even though it's 7 years, you know, you still don't get over such a horrific death. My father's killer was eventually caught months later after he detonated 3 bombs over 3 mosques in the West Midlands in Walsall, Wolverhampton and Tipton. And this was one of the biggest acts of terrorism on UK soil towards Muslims, but the media to date fails to recognize it as such. And there are many people who don't even know about our family's tragedy, even though the perpetrator, Pablo Lapshin, was charged under UK terrorism laws. As a family, we've had to deal with a failed system. I remember very well when West Midlands police came to our house and they had the audacity to say to us, oh, this wasn't a racist attack, and refused to investigate it as such. Misinformation was put out in our community, casting suspicion and suggestions that the perpetrator of our father's death could have been us, or that it was a robbery. We are now well versed as to how the so-called justice system treats Muslims, migrants and refugees. The police went as far as enlisting the help of the local masjid in order to silence our voices and stop protests, and to do their best not to close the case without an investigation. You know, luckily my older sister, who's a lawyer, she consistently challenged the narrative at the time and made sure our story was being pushed into the media, and we were handling the media ourselves. Today, I continue to support families and fight alongside campaigners so that no one endures the pain, the loss and the negligence that we did as a family. This is why I'm fighting justice for Shukri, just as I did support and stood up for the family of Mariam Mustafa, whose beautiful life was taken by her bullies in Nottingham. The alleged perpetrators escaped justice because of institutional failures that existed before and after a death, just as I did with my father's death, and now we've seen the same pattern of behavior with Shukri's death. Shukri was a child and a citizen of this country. Our concern is that she was treated as a second-class citizen. The family, the Bury community, and now many more around the world have lent their support in demanding answers, and most importantly, justice for Shukri, to find out the truth behind the events that led to her death and to demand justice. No parent should have to bury a child. We expect those charged with responsibility of leadership to maintain a fair and safe society for all, whether a child or adult, and irrespective of ethnic and racial background. In the closing submission at the inquest, our QC for Shukri, Ashley Underwood, had argued that child one had a duty of care to Shukri. Child one knew Shukri couldn't swim, and told Shukri that she would look after her when they went into the water. So Ashley Underwood relayed that the family want the coroner to deliver unlawful killing conclusion, and the lowest threshold is gross negligence manslaughter. Shukri lost a young life under suspicious circumstances, and if we cannot maintain the safety and security of our children, we'll lose many more in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed for that very powerful account, Maz. And I urge our viewers and participants this evening to look into the ongoing case and the campaign to seek justice for Shukri Abdi's family. You know, the thing is, with some of these Islamophobic incidents, the murder of Muhammad Salim, and then the subsequent conviction of Pavlo Lapshin, you know, how many of us actually know about these? And the reason we don't is the media often doesn't want to talk about these high profile incidents. But luckily there are campaigners like Maz and others who continue to fight and seek justice. You know, even in the case of Stephen Lawrence, it took years and years to have finally some answers, and to have answers that the Met Police were institutionally racist. And luckily, you know, there are good people amongst us who continue to fight the good fight. And Islamophobia Awareness Month is to provide a platform to shine a light on incidents of Islamophobia and what all of us can do collectively. So the next speaker that we have is actually in the form of a video message. It is from Right Honourable David Lammy MP for Tottenham and Shadow Justice Secretary. And many of you will be aware that David chaired an independent review, which is known as the Lammy Review, which was into the treatment of and outcomes for Black, Asian, and minority ethnic individuals in the criminal justice system. You'll find that report on the gov.uk website that was published and concluded in 2017. And we've got a video from David, and he will touch on the impact and within the criminal justice system, how that the treatment of Muslims and how disproportionate that is compared to other groups. So Vivek, if you could assist with putting on the video message that we've got from David Lammy.
I want to send love and solidarity to my Muslim brothers and sisters in this Islamophobia Awareness Month.
Is it on the screen? I can't see it.
And the discrimination, prejudice and racism towards people of Muslim backgrounds is at an all-time high. Hate is on the rise, and we even have a Prime Minister who has himself demonstrated.
I think we're having some technical issues. We can hear the voice of David. We can't see the video.
In my role as Secretary of State for Justice, I will do all I can to see implemented the review I did into the criminal.
Sorry, do bear with us. I think we're just having some technical
It's exactly what
difficulties.
happened last time with David's video as well, Khaled. I'm going to try and run it again. Apologies, everybody. I'm going to try and run it again.
Vivek, take your time. We will just switch things around a little bit. What I will do while you're working on that, I will now invite Councillor Joe Ejiofor, who is leader of Haringey Council, to say a few words and to touch on what we're doing locally in Haringey. So let me welcome Councillor Joe Ejiofor to give his speech, and then perhaps in the meantime we can work out how to get both the video and the sound. I think we could only hear David Levin's voice. We couldn't see the video, so we'll sort that out. So over to Councillor Joe Ejiofor, leader of Haringey Council.
Hi. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, colleagues. Hi, Khaled. I'd like to thank you first and foremost for organising this meeting. I think it's a really important matter that we need to do to highlight a lot greater, because I think the reality is that it should focus the community's minds on what is ultimately often a very hidden challenge. I mean, Haringey as a borough, we take pride in our diversity, and our Muslim community. We're a vital part of that diversity and an integral part of Haringey and what Haringey is and always has been. Now, November has been Islamophobia Awareness Month, and as it comes to a close, I think it's important that for all of us that we reflect upon the discriminations that the Muslim community faces in its daily life. We also pledge to work tirelessly together to defeat it. I'm not a Muslim, but the reality is that I can empathise with the day-to-day anger and frustration of the Muslim experience, not just because not just in the UK and around the world, because my experience of racism, my experience of prejudice, my experience of discrimination as a black person in the UK, I know is similar to the same experience that many Muslims go through. The followers of the Prophet Muhammad are the most ethnically diverse of any religion. Muslims hail not just from the Indian subcontinent and the Middle East, but also from across Africa, Europe, Asia, China, and the Americas. And whilst society, begrudgingly, admittedly, decries discrimination on the basis of skin colour, I know that Muslims are acutely aware that society is much less willing or open to actively challenge prejudice and discrimination on the basis of religion. This must change. And in my view, it's really one of the key objectives of Islamophobia Awareness Month should be to create a greater awareness that this discrimination is happening. As speakers have pointed out, it is the institutionalization and the normalization of Islamophobia which is the most damaging and pervasive issue. And the fact that, one bad act of one individual can be used to tar a quarter of the world's population is just quite simply wrong. Jimmy Savile was a paedophile and Fred West was a mass murderer, but British society does not use their bad acts to characterize Britain's white population. And we must challenge individually and collectively when one bad act by a black person or by a Muslim person is used as a shorthand to tar the character of the whole community. Not doing so allows Islamophobia to spread. It's a key objective of this particular month, and the delivering of greater awareness of what Islamophobia is, that we must challenge that sort of discrimination. Sure, our council has been taking some steps to address Islamophobia locally. We've held a series of webinars on Islamophobia. We've done work during National Hate Crime Awareness Week. We've established a hate crime delivery group. But I'm not going to disrespect those present by claiming that we could not or should not have done more. And this is part of the challenge that I accept from my time listening to events during Islamophobia Awareness Month that we must take forward on our council. I mean, during Islamophobia Awareness Month, I've had to ask myself a number of key questions about how aware I am of the Islamophobia around me. And how engaged can I be in changing it? There is much more that must yet be done to reduce the number of hate crimes around us. But the reality is that just reducing the number of bigots who feel empowered to attack Muslims in the street cannot be perceived as success. That is not job done. Sure, yeah, it shows positive progress. However, we know there is much more to be done to combat Islamophobia. And as a council, we must work in partnership with you, with the community, to lead on doing so. Discrimination isn't always as direct as hate crimes. It is nowadays most often latent, hidden, pervasive. Some might give it a friendly name of being called unconscious. I might argue that it is rarely unconscious, but it is a symptom of who individuals actually are. It's about behaviors being tolerated. It's about attitudes being normalized. And that is how Islamophobia becomes institutionalized in our society. And if you look at the media, studies in the media show that the majority of references to Muslim in the British press are negative ones. And this again taints the prism through which many people view the whole community. And even when the community is delivering active successes, you know, being respected for leading Britain's society in particular roles, it's their achievements are still tarred through the prism that the national media seeks to paint. The Labour Party, in my view, needs to take Islamophobia as seriously as it takes all other discrimination. It's simply not good enough to pay it some lip service at the top. If the party is challenged to whether or not it's a safe place for Muslims, we must engage with our Muslim members and seek to understand their concerns and change our behaviours. And as the leader of our council and the leader of our Haringey Labour Party, I will certainly set out to assist make that happen. Islamophobia awareness challenges each of us to look at our own behaviour and to question our own views and some of our own motives. The responsibility falls on all of us to renounce negative stereotypes and assumptions wherever and whenever we encounter them, and to challenge institutionalized prejudices to help reduce the stigma that Muslims encounter on a regular basis. We must show our Muslim community that we stand alongside them against hate, against bigotry, and at all times we work with them. I think we must use this month as a period of reflection to change behaviours and to improve our collective future. In my view, that is the biggest contribution that non-Muslims can make to assist the Muslim community. We must stand alongside them as we challenge institutionalized Islamophobia wherever we find it. I'm really keen to help all of those present here today to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Joe Ejiofor. I'm just going to read out some messages that we've had on social media, on Facebook. There's a message from Janet Evans, who's responding to the very powerful account given by our previous speaker just before Councillor Ejiofor, Maz Salim. And Janet says, thank you, Maz. Shocking examples of racism and institutional racism in the UK justice system. From Stuart Curley, again, addressing what Maz had shared with us. Thank you for sharing those tragic events with us, Maz. My sincerest solidarity with you. Councillor James Churian Kandath is a Haringey councillor. He says, moving testimony, Maz, and all power to you for continuing with your campaigning. And Julie Mukherjee says, solidarity from Hackney NEU, National Education Union. It's so good to hear from the speakers today. As a teacher, we are aware of PREVENT. I would argue that far-right groups should be the focus. However, the Muslim community appear to be the target. How do the speakers regard PREVENT Anyway, we will perhaps address that with the representative of MEND that we have later on in the program. There were also a couple of comments on YouTube. This is being streamed on YouTube as well. We've had greetings from Paul Power from Haringey NEU. Gary McFarlane says solidarity from the Black Lives Matter movement. Now, the next speaker that I'd like to introduce and welcome is Councillor Julia Ogihor, who is the chair of Haringey Lib Dems. Councillor Ogihor, if you could kindly switch on your camera, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having me this evening. I mean, I'm proud to support our Muslim brothers and sisters, especially given the year that we have, and also to join the fight, you know, for a change in our society and to say no to Islamophobia. As has already been mentioned, the council last year had put forward a motion to adopt the APPG or British Muslims definition of Islamophobia. And that motion showed an example of where party politics was put aside for the greater good. And it is this journey together in general, whether that is coming across party lines, bringing different cultures together, that will strengthen the fight for a more inclusive society. As some of you may know, Haringey has a large Muslim community. There's an estimated 36,000 Muslim people living in Haringey. And it pains me that in 2020, we're still calling for our Muslim brothers and sisters to still have the same rights as all other groups in Haringey and beyond. We all know that Brexit brought out the ugliness and hate in people, which saw a spike in all forms of racism, in particularly Islamophobia, and is particularly against Muslim women. You know, the pandemic has also revealed the ugly truth of the inherent and institutional racism in this UK and globally. As others have already mentioned, you only have to look to Trump's America, look to China and everything that's going on with the Uyghurs, and of course look to France and the recent dangerous rhetoric and policies that is being propagated by Macron to see the ongoing vilification of Muslim people. We don't need to actively continue to fight for change in our local communities so that this change can reverberate across the world. Instead of spreading hate, why can't we just recognize the remarkable contributions Muslims around the world make to our society? I mean, there are so many examples, but I really want to focus on this particular year. This pandemic alone saw the contributions flood in from the Muslim community, especially during Ramadan. How about the Muslim company who developed the biotech and Pfizer COVID vaccine, literally saving the world and finding a cure to a disease that has killed millions of people globally? Why are we not focusing more on this? Why do we continue with this hate and vilification? And as I said, that's just this year. And just as I was preparing for this speech, you know, I'm a Londoner and I grew up in London, and mixing with people from all culture is normal. It's nothing special. And over the years, my best friends are from everywhere. And in preparing for this speech, I spoke to one of them who is Muslim. And I asked her, you know, we talk about racism as it's become normal for us over the years. And one of the things that she was really at pain to stress was how the lack of education, even on the basics, has driven hate against the Muslim community. For example, she had someone approach her a few weeks ago, and they confidently, as you know, people with ignorance confidently do, proclaimed that Arabic was the same thing as Muslim. And then even after she stated the obvious by explaining that actually one is a language and the other is a religion, he still did not understand, but instead continued to ask her, but all Muslims speak Arabic? I mean, this is obviously not true. It's this level of, you know, basic awareness that drives the ignorance and the hate that we continue to see. And this is why raising awareness is so important, and also trying to explain why Islamophobia is rooted in racism. As others have said today, there is this perceived notion of if one person commits an act, the whole community is expected to speak on behalf of this one act that has been committed, but this is not expected of, you know, a white person, for example. But I asked you though, I hear you ask, how do we continue to raise awareness? How do we do this? I mean, this month alone is a perfect example of where you can start. A simple research, a simple following the right groups, a simple calling out what you see online, and not just online, in person as well. You know, when you see something, any form of racism, you speak up, you protect that person who's been attacked. However, if you are too scared to speak, you report it, because this is a crime. This is not something that you can just brush off as something that happened on another day. When I was attacked on a tube, I got the confidence to report it because other people stood for me. So that is one of the ways we can continue to highlight that, no, this is not okay. No, this is not normal. And what you are doing is committing a crime. And when you commit a crime, there are consequences. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Ogihor. We will now try to play the two video messages that we've got, one from David Lammy MP and the other one from Catherine West MP, both MPs representing the two constituencies in Haringey. David is the Shadow Justice Secretary, as you know, and we've also got Catherine. So Vivek, are we now in a position to play those videos?
I'm going to give it another go.
Okay, let's try again.
Yep.
I want to send love and solidarity to my Muslim brothers and sisters in this Islamophobia Awareness Month. Islamophobia and the discrimination...
Vivek, I think we have the same issue. We can hear the sound, but can't see the video.
Is at an all-time high.
I don't... One more go. Hang on fire for 1 second. Right. Let me give you one more go.
Yeah, no problem. Take your time.
I want to send love and solidarity to my Muslim brothers and sisters in this Islamophobia Awareness Month.
I think, Vivek, we had the same issue.
Islamophobia and the discrimination.
Okay. I don't know why that is. Shall I just play the sound?
You're just playing the sound. It's not playing on the screen.
What I'm saying is I can't see why that is. Shall I just play the sound so people can at least hear what David has to say?
Can we do that, please, Chair?
Khaled, what do you think?
Sorry?
Khaled, what do you think? Shall I just play it so we get the audio at least?
Let me bring in some of the other speakers. I think
Okay.
it would be better to have the audio and the video.
Sure. Okay.
Let me go to the next speaker.
Go ahead.
We go to the next speaker. We still have 3 more speakers. And if by the end of the program, we've not managed to sort this out. So I think, Vivek, you take your time and see your trial and error method to see what works.
Okay.
And so let's go to the next speaker that we've got. I'm very delighted to introduce and welcome Naima Omar, who is an activist with Stand Up to Racism in Tyre Hamlets. So over to you, Naima.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me this evening. Hopefully you can hear me. Hopefully I don't repeat what others have said, but I think it's incredibly important to talk about what's happening in France at the moment with Macron's attack, like the whole fight against separatism, when in reality he's creating a level of separatism, and saying he's going to do it by 5, like he used the words 5 pillars in reference to the Islamic 5 pillars, like, which I thought was quite horrific. And what is like Macron fundamentally doing? He's isolated and separating the Muslim community from being a part of the wider sector. Like a lot of Muslim women who wear the headscarf, or individuals who have Muslim sounding names, find it more difficult to get jobs. They're excluded in society in a wider sense, like children. The argument about halal meats in school. There's also the question of like arguing that swimming pools are only for men and women should be banned, and that they should be mixed, which is taking away people's right to like even exercise and do the most basic things in society. And like one statistic that always sticks with me, I don't know if it's still the same, but a couple of years ago in France, the Muslim population was 7%, but the Muslim population in prison was 70%, which I think is quite shocking and shows the reality and the experience of Muslims in France. But I think what Macron's doing is fundamentally hiding his failings of COVID, where thousands of people have died, and the manner in which he dealt with it is horrific. Like quite a lot of governments across the world, but he's also giving ground to the far left, not the far left, oh my gosh, far right. It's such as like Le Pen and so forth. She herself has said she agreed with what Macron was saying, which I think is quite, like, if Le Pen agrees with you, that is a worrying sign. You should not be standing with her in any shape or form. Say that she agrees with him and that like he needs to go a bit further. So it's just he's given a level of confidence to the far right more than ever. And like what's quite shocking is like no one's really, when there's talk about what's happening in France, no one mentions the fact that 2 young Muslim women were stabbed under like the Eiffel Tower, and like the person who did it shouted dirty Arabs. I think that's kind of brushed under the rug, and it's made to seem as one-sided. And there's that whole argument of freedom of speech, but fundamentally people's freedom of religion is taken away from them. And like we can't say we're much different here in terms of like our Prime Minister Boris Johnson. I remember during the Black Lives Matter movement, people were saying Boris Johnson is a racist, and he very much is. He's a man that attacked Muslim women, saying that they wear, like, those who wear the veil look like letterboxes or rubbers, and he completely refused to apologize. I remember during the general election, he was asked a number of times regarding this, and he constantly refused to even acknowledge that he said or apologize in any shape or form. And you see our governments ramping up of racism and a constant attack on refugees and migrants, with Priti Patel saying that she's going to send warships across the Devon coast, the Kent coast, to ensure that refugees who are in like little boats, dinghies, trying to get in, trying to stop them in. And like the reality for refugees is that they're go from one hostile environment to another very hostile environment. Our government's constant ramping of racism is something that we're going to see, because they want to hide their completely failings and lack of handling and mishandling of COVID. I think COVID's really been an X-ray to the society which we live in. I think it's quite interesting. At the beginning of the pandemic, there was a lot of frontline workers who died, and there was a lot of Muslim doctors who died as well. These were doctors who had retired and came back to help out, but died at the forefront of it. And like, what did our government do in the midst of the pandemic? When people talk about like, let's make sure Christmas is a thing, we have to get the families together, it kind of rubs me up the wrong way, because it's like every other faith group's religious holiday, this entire couple of months, you've ignored it. And for the Muslim community in particular, you attacked them, saying that after for Ramadan and Eid, that we were one of the causes for the spread of COVID, using pictures where from a couple of years ago, or using pictures from a certain angle to make it look like the crowd was bigger than it fundamentally was. I think we have to like be aware of the ramping up of racism, and in particular Islamophobia, because like that's where they feel comfortable to do. And I think like Islamophobia will open a gateway for other forms of racism, because like any attack on any group is an attack on all, and the people will feel comfortable to go to the next one. And I think that is why stand up to racism and meetings like this are so crucial. I think like we are still in the midst of a pandemic, and like to have a meeting, like I've been to a number of meetings, a part of Islamophobia Awareness Month up and down the country. I think it's so crucial not to just put it aside and just be like, let's just get through this first. We have to fight it because we know what's going to come in the next hurdle. And I think that's what we have to do in every shape or form. And I think that's the role Stand Up to Racism wants to play an international and national role, and like work with other groups across the world. I think what happened in Greece with the verdict against guilty verdicts against Golden Dawn really shows the possibility of how wide the anti-racist movement is, and it's one that like Stand Up to Racism is like kind of associated with. It shows like we're not just locally and based in the UK and nationally, we're very much an international movement against racism, wherever it rears its head. So yeah, I think like I want to encourage people to be a part of the movement in any shape or form. Sometimes I can understand if there's like a demo or visual and it may be small, but it's important that we have those because the people who are walking by can see people are doing it. And I think it gives a level of confidence and reassurance that there is stuff happening to it. And like the Black Lives Matter movement really shows that. I think right now there's a lot of like, to put it in a metaphor kind of way, there's a lot of oil and fuel on the floor, and one spark has to be lit and the fire will go up. I think people are incredibly angry and people will want to fight back, and there will be questions against Islamophobia and racism that's in society. We have to be a part of that. We want to build a broad anti-racist movement to tackle the question of Islamophobia, to tackle the question of racism and racism in society. And I think the Black Lives Matter movement shows the possibility of how wide a broader movement can be, and how a movement can really change people's views and perspectives of the world. Quite an interesting fact that is in the States during the Black Lives Matter movement, 60% of white Americans supported it in one shape or another. So it shows that there can be a massive shift in society, and people will start to question things, even if they're not politically active or involved. Now there is that inkling there. We have to continue to keep going and mobilizing as well. And like a Stand Up to Racism, a part of we have a winter appeal for refugees. So there's a number of groups across the country which are collective for refugees. So please be involved in that, and please continue to fight against racism and Islamophobia and anti-Semitism and any other forms of hatred. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Naima, for that call to action to get involved with what is happening through Stand Up to Racism. And also, Naima touched on how this government views those dinghies that bring a few desperate people on the English Channel. On the 2nd of December, there is a scheduled, so that's the day that the lockdown is lifted. The Home Office has a scheduled deportation flight to Jamaica. And this is something that people need to raise their voice about and to write to the Home Secretary to halt deportation, especially in the middle of a global pandemic. There is a video message by David Lammy. We're going to have a third attempt to see if we can play it. So do bear with us. And I think, look, if we get third time lucky and we're able to show you the video and the audio, great. If not, if it's just the audio, so be it. So over to you, Vivek. Let's see if we can get it up and running this time.
Okay, one last try at this. not working, is it?
Not yet. I think you may need to play it on your computer and then share that.
That's what I'm doing. This is one last go at this. Why is this?
I want to send love and solidarity to my Muslim brothers and sisters in this Islamophobia Awareness Month.
Are you hearing or seeing anything?
Islamophobia,
We're just hearing it. I think let's leave it at that.
prejudice and racism towards people of Muslim backgrounds is at an all-time high. Hate is on the rise, and we even have a prime minister who has himself demonstrated and said the most awful things about people from Muslim backgrounds. I won't repeat it here. But it is to say that in my role as Secretary of State for Justice, I will do all I can to see implemented the review I did into the criminal justice system a few years ago. It found, very sadly, that those from Muslim backgrounds was up 20% in our criminal justice system. And of course, that there were deep stereotypes that prevail across the criminal justice system, with people often assuming that someone has malicious intent or is a terrorist or something like that. For all of those reasons, the experience of people of Muslim backgrounds in our criminal justice system is not a very good one. And I found when I took evidence in places like Bradford that people often complained about strong perceptions that the jury was rigged against them, and frankly, that our judges were against them and that they received stronger and longer sentences than their white counterparts. So there's a lot to do in this country, and I stand firm that we must implement the Lamy Review. And that's not just for Britain's ethnic minorities, it's absolutely to stand by people from Muslim backgrounds, wherever they are. So solidarity to you this month, and rest assured that I and all of my colleagues in the Labour Party will continue to raise these issues about Islamophobia and the treatment of people from Muslim backgrounds here in the United Kingdom.
Thank you, David. We were just listening to a message that was sent in by David Lammy, the Shadow Justice Secretary. He couldn't join us because of his other commitments, but we have been able to hear the message that he recorded, especially touching on how the criminal justice system disproportionately impacts on the UK's Muslim community. And he referred to the Lamy Review, which he authored in 2017, that is still available on the gov.uk website. I will now request our next speaker, Mohammed Shoaib, who is the London Regional Manager of MEND, Muslim Engagement and Development. And Mohammed Shoaib will touch on how the Islamophobia Awareness Month is going, and also what can be done going forward. So over to you, Mohammed Shoaib.
Thank you very much, Khalid. Hello and assalamu alaikum, everyone who's viewing. Really appreciate that you guys have taken out your time to listen to this panel of speakers. And it's been amazing, the fact that we've been able to get so much support from local MPs, from local councillors, from local activists as well. What I'm going to bring you, I mean, Khalid has introduced me as the London Regional Manager of MEND, which stands for Muslim Engagement and Development. And what I do want to bring to your attention is what MEND is doing. Khalid mentioned in the introduction that we were part of the kind of founders of Islamophobia Awareness Month. We're one of the co-founders, which started 8 years ago, and we've found every single year that the campaign has developed so much.
Okay, this is so annoying. Okay.
Sorry, it seems.
Yes.
Okay, Vivek, you need to mute yourself.
That'll go down for posterity. Cheers, Paul.
Okay, Shoaib, you carry on.
Yep. Okay. So we've seen the campaign develop over so many years, and this year we can say that it's kind of gone very wide, and we've seen kind of a lot of support from many different political parties, from different MPs, different councillors, different community organizations, different mosques, different churches, different other faiths. It's really been great, and kind of we're coming to the end now, but that doesn't mean just because we're coming to the end of the campaign that the campaign stops here, that talking about Islamophobia stops here. We actually need to make sure that we're taking this narrative, we're taking it forward beyond the month, because the month is simply for awareness, but beyond awareness comes many other steps. And that's why I want to speak to everyone about today is what are the steps, the practical steps that we are supposed to be taking when it comes to tackling Islamophobia. Rightly so, we have members on this panel that are doing their individual part to tackle Islamophobia. But let's put this into a wider context. So the first step is raising awareness, and that is what our organization has set out to do. MEND as an organization was set up about 5 years ago in order to help raise awareness of this issue. And especially so in the Muslim community, we find that in the Muslim community, for a long time, there hasn't been any real effort to get Muslims involved in understanding the political system, in understanding media. There definitely have been efforts, but I mean a really wide concerted effort needs to really push this further, and MEND has set out that objective to empower and educate our community to do that. So the first step is raising awareness to ourselves, allowing ourselves to really understand what is Islamophobia, what is the systems in the UK that we can get involved in and we can politically, that we can successfully and positively sustain and change and challenge. And I'm so happy to see that we have Muslim politicians on this panel today. We have Muslim leaders on this panel today showing that they are being active in taking part in actually tackling this issue from different spheres of society. Then the next step, after we're able to educate ourselves about this issue, engage ourselves in this issue, then we need to make sure that we're engaging others. This campaign of Islamophobia, it cannot just be a Muslim problem. It cannot be a problem which only the Muslim community deal with. We need to remember that the Muslim community are just about 5% of this population. That means 95% of this population may not ever face Islamophobia or may not understand Islamophobia to its deepest roots. And so it's our responsibility as Muslims to then take that message and make sure we're raising awareness about this issue that Muslims are facing to the wider public. And again, that's why I'm so glad that we have on this panel people from other faiths who are supporting this this fight against Islamophobia and tackling it together. And in order to help raise awareness to the wider community, we need to engage with them. Right? We need to make sure that we are speaking. If we work in a workplace and we have professional networks, like we have an Islamic society or a Black and minority ethnic society, or we have a faith and belief society, that we're working with them so that they are raising awareness of this issue amongst the staff members and amongst the senior level. If we can engage with other local faith institutes, we need to engage with them through campaigns like this. If we are teachers at a school, why do we not ask our heads that why can we not include Islamophobia in our syllabus so that all children can understand how to stand up against this hate? If we are involved in local women's organizations, why do we not bring this topic up within those organizations, so that, because we know that Muslim women face the brunt of Islamophobia. In our own organization, Muslim Engagement and Development, we have a victim support wing called the Islamophobia Response Unit, which is a free-to-use service for anyone who's been discriminated against or has faced hate crime that is seen to be Islamophobic. And the reports that they have gotten is 55% of all of the reports that they've had, all the cases that they've had to deal with, come from Muslim women, right? So very important to make sure we're engaging these different parts of society. If you're a student watching this, you can engage your university, your student union, your Islamic society, and ask them to get involved in this fight against Islamophobia. So that's the first stage, which is raising awareness to ourselves and raising awareness to other people. The second stage is to make sure, and it's combined with the first stage, is to make sure we're building partners on the ground. Now, building partners on the ground kind of ties back into my previous point, where we're thinking about where do we have an influence, right? Where can we play our part? We can't do everything. We can't speak to our MP and organize an event and go speak to our church and then go to the mosque and then speak at a school or you know, teach at a school. We can't do everything. So we need to identify as individuals in society, where is our influence and how can we best use that influence to raise awareness of Islamophobia, right? And that's where we can start creating these partnerships where we can say, well, it's not just me as an individual that needs to tackle this issue. It's not just the Muslim community as a single community that needs to tackle this issue. Actually, through my single influence, I can bring together other partners to make sure that they're raising awareness of this issue and they're tackling it with me, right? The next step beyond having partners is once we've raised awareness and we've got partners on board, then we need to make sure this message gets out widely. We need to make sure there's a campaign there. So this is why we have Islamophobia Awareness Month, because it's a chance for us to really kickstart that mindset that Islamophobia is something that needs to be talked about. Islamophobia is something that needs to be tackled. And that campaign is only the beginning, right? As we've said, this message about Islamophobia needs to go further than just the awareness within the month. It actually needs to take real-time action throughout the rest of the year so that we can see improvements year on year, year on year. So we need to make sure that we are involving ourselves in this campaign, and then we're taking the campaign beyond just November, and we're continuing that conversation. The same way a few months ago, saw the protests and the marches of the Black Lives Matter movement. One of the key messages that were coming out of that is we don't want to be forgotten. We don't want to be yesterday's news. We want to make sure that this continues and people continue to speak about this problem, and we don't just forget about it after the media channels have stopped reporting on the different protests. We need to make sure that our voices are being raised. So that's the importance of this campaign, that we don't look at it as just a month, but we look at it as a real serious way to engage. Now, the fourth and final step, I've gone through creating partnerships. I've gone through making sure we're initiating a campaign. But the fourth and final step is there would be no point of us doing all of that if we didn't engage with our stakeholders. If we didn't engage with our MPs, with our councillors, we didn't engage with our mayors, we didn't engage with the local media, with the national media, those areas in which we can see we have people who can create that real change. So we need to make sure that we engage with them, that we make sure that we positively engage with them. We tell them how we can be a value to their services. How can we engage? For example, we can tell our MP, look, we can be a value to you where we can get you more access to the Muslim community. We can get you more access to disadvantaged members of the community so that they can raise their concerns to you and you can represent them properly in Parliament. And then we also hold them to account. For example, the police, right? We need to see, are they actually recording Islamophobia properly? Even if they have said that Islamophobia is something that they're recording, are they actually recording it properly? Are they actually helping those victims? So we are working with them, engaging with them so that we can see what they are doing and make sure we're holding them to account. But we're also adding value to their particular service because we are the ones that know exactly how it feels to face Islamophobia. So those are the 4 steps that I want to give everybody in that everybody can take on, and everybody can find their own individual journey over those 4 steps on how to really build this campaign and take it further than where it is now. So I hope everybody can take that message on. The last thing I'll leave you with is you're probably wondering, well, you said all of those amazing things, but how can I get started? Where's my kickstart? So I'll tell you to go to Islamophobia-awareness.org. So Islamophobia-awareness.org. I'll leave it in the Facebook comments too. And on that website, you can literally find out all the information you need to know, whether it's about educating yourself, whether it's about educating others, whether it's about engaging with stakeholders, whether it's about creating partners. You can find out all that information on that website. So thanks very much for listening to me. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of our speakers because we've got an amazing lineup of speakers to come up after me too.
Thank you very much indeed for that very important contribution. We are nearing the end of this evening's program. The program will be closed officially by Haringey's first Muslim mayor, Councillor Adam Jogi. Before I go to him, I just want to read out some of the messages that we've had posted on Facebook. Aziz Chaudhry says, solidarity from Redbridge. and Sophie Rust, addressing one of our previous speakers, Naima Omar. She says, thank you for all of these really important points, especially about government's prioritizing of Christmas over other faith celebrations. Hadn't considered that before now, but it's very problematic. Janet Evans says, many good points there, Naima. We need to look internationally as well as locally and call out Islamophobia wherever it is. Solidarity. Anna Gluckstein mentions this is also very important in schools. At my school in Hackney, we have Islamophobia awareness assemblies. Thank you for those contributions on the social media. There is one more video, and that video is from Catherine West, MP, who represents the Hornsey and Wood Green constituency in Haringey. We've got that video. I'm going to go to Vivek to assist me and to see if we can play the video and audio, failing which we'll just have the audio, which is just good enough.
Good evening. This month is Islamophobia Awareness Month. And could I thank the mosque this evening for organising the event and for bringing us all together. We know that we have a big problem with Islamophobia here in the UK, whether it's at the scale of service providers, be that healthcare, housing, other providers, failing to make adjustments to understand special cultural approaches or basic equality access for the Muslim community to gain access and to counter that disproportionality which we see in terms of gaining access to services. I stand with the community tonight to call for the stamping out of bigotry of all kinds, but tonight particularly we're looking at institutional Islamophobia, for example in employment practices. We know how many talented individuals are held back because of institutional approaches and unconscious bias towards the Muslim community. We also know that the economy itself is held back by failing to use the skills and the approaches of our diverse communities. And we also know that at the other end of the spectrum, there is blatant anti-Muslim sentiment online. We know from Hope Not Hate and Tell Mama, two organisations which look at forensically each complaint which is made around Islamophobia. Harassment online has increased exponentially. Hijab women are targeted on public transport. The damage that can be caused to property in a Muslim-hating environment. We know that students at school and university across the UK describe the discrimination that they face because they are Muslim. And even in our own party, research carried out by the Labour Muslim Network found a third of Labour's Muslims have witnessed Islamophobia firsthand. That is a terrible statistic. We must redouble our efforts to support proper systems in the Labour Party, and as we know from the recent Human Rights Watchdog report, I really welcome the decision to put all of our complaints into an independent complaints process, dealt with away from the political process, so that we can have the fairest possible outcomes. It would be easy to feel downhearted tonight at the extent of progress that has to be made so that we can deliver equality amongst all of our communities. But what gives me hope is, first of all, an event like tonight, which calls out Islamophobia. Number two, the appeal to younger people who seem to have much more of an equality-based approach, who seem to be less racist and bigoted. And they give me hope that together we can face down this tide of bigotry, the exponential rise in hatred online, and that we can have events like the Islamophobia Awareness Month, so that for the whole month we can think about things which we need to do, whether that's service provision, whether that's at government or parliament level, whether that's at a political party level, so that we can hope for a more equal and a more just future. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Catherine West MP and all our speakers this evening. We have come to the end of the program, and the program is going to be closed officially by Haringey's first Muslim Mayor, Councillor Adam Jogi. So I will hand over to him. Councillor Jogi, over to you.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good.
Far away.
Greetings, one and all. I'm sorry that I haven't been able to be present for all of tonight's meeting. The Mayoress and I were turning on the Tottenham Christmas lights, and so I'm grateful to the organisers for facilitating the mayoral diary and allowing me to close this evening. Of course, the graveyard spot's always difficult because everyone else has said all the good things before, so I hope you'll indulge me to share my thoughts very briefly. Now, tonight I join you not from Victoria Falls, as my background would suggest, although I wish I were there, but from my home here in Hornsey. It's a real pleasure and privilege to be able to do so. The fact we are on Zoom speaks to the difficult times we live in, and I know that many minority communities have been hit hard by the coronavirus and its devastating impact. That of course includes Haringey's Muslim community, and so my thoughts and prayers go out to all those who've lost loved ones, neighbours and friends. It's never easy to lose a loved one, but in these circumstances it is especially difficult. I want you all to know that we stand with you. Our borough is one of the most diverse communities in our country, a fact that I'm very proud of. Like others, I've had the benefit of living amongst those diverse communities and peoples my whole life, and I know I'm the better for it. You don't need me to tell you, but I will do anyway, that the borough's Muslim community has made, makes, and will make a powerful and valued contribution to every part of Haringey life, and to each of them, I say thank you. A phobia is, according to the Oxford Dictionary that I picked up this afternoon that my late grandmother gave to me, an extreme or irrational fear of or aversion to something. Tonight we are here to reaffirm anew our commitment to challenging and fighting the extreme and irrational aversion to Islam and its followers. Those followers are the very people that may be your dentist, your co-worker, your banker, your teacher, or other important roles that make your life tick day in and day out. And it's so vital that we challenge that racism and bigotry every single day, not just for me or anyone else from a Muslim background, but because it's the right and just thing to do. That fight for equality and representation still needs to be won, and it needs to be won now. And so too do all the other forms of racism and bigotry that still exist in our country. In the last 6.5 years I've served as a councillor, I've experienced some of the most outrageous abuse. One called me Jihadi Jogi, someone else thought it fit to call me a monkey, another described me to a mutual colleague as that boy. And the most outrageous comment I've had this year alone was being told that I'm not as much of a Muslim as somebody else. If that isn't Islamophobia, I don't know what is. And I mention this not because I need sympathy or that there is a hierarchy of abuse or racism, but because all minority communities need to work together to fight the haters and the bigots. My community, the Muslim community, needs the solidarity of all others, and all others need ours too. The concept of community doesn't just refer to a set of people, it refers to a vision and a commitment to one and all. I know from my local mosque at Whiteman Road, under the leadership of the inspirational and indefatigable President Bibi Khan, just what a support the Muslim community has been to others in these tough times, from sorting halal food for the food banks to visiting and supporting those on their own. My late grandfather, Haji Adam Jogi, was a man deeply proud of and connected to his Islamic faith. I want to mention him in this speech because his life experience growing up and living in segregated southern Rhodesia and his belief in and practice of the peaceful values of Islam guide me every day, and I wouldn't be here, both literally, but also metaphorically, without him. 2 weeks ago today, I spoke at Muswell Hill Synagogue, and I said this, and I quote, "The concept of standing with others, of not walking by on the other side, is something I spoke about in my acceptance speech following my election as mayor 6 weeks ago. We can never ignore the call to help. We must never close our eyes to injustice or block our ears to racism. We must fight every day to make our community a better place." That message was relevant then, and it's relevant tonight too. I was elected in 2014 and quickly realized that when it comes to speech making, less is far more. And it's a rule of thumb that I try most often to follow. I'm the first, as was noted by Khalid, Muslim to serve as mayor, and that is an honour I take seriously indeed. To my brothers and sisters in the Haringey's Muslim community, I say this. Please be assured that Haringey stands with you against hate, now and always. Thank you for all you do, and will do in the coming months and years to make Haringey a great place to live, learn, and work.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Jogi. All that remains to be said is those who have watched the programme this evening would be grateful if you could share it on your social media, on Facebook, on WhatsApp, on Twitter, whichever platform you're on, so that we can reach as many people as possible. You heard from one of our speakers, Mohammed Shoaib from MEND. The website to visit is Islamophobia-awareness.org. You'll find lots and lots of information there about Islamophobia Awareness Month and what you can continue to do beyond this month. And also mend.org.uk. You can visit and volunteer with MEND. They have a number of initiatives. Islamophobia Response Unit is a free service for victims of Islamophobia. Again, those of you who may want to volunteer to be a caseworker, that is also available. This evening's program has been organized by a number of different organizations. Haringey Stand Up to Racism, which you can search on social media and follow. The Masjid in Tottenham, Masjid Aisha Tottenham. Sister Bibi Khan is here on the Zoom call this evening representing Whiteman Road Mosque. We've also had the chair of Finsbury Park Mosque. So quite a number of organizations. I'd like to thank everybody, all of our speakers, and especially Vivek, the Secretary of Haringey Stand Up to Racism, for facilitating the program this evening. So with that, I'd like to say thank you and see you next time. Take care.